Chapter 11. Beyond the gate is a lane, now thick with weeds and undergrowth. Nathan recognizes a stand of blackberry bushes and a tangle of wild roses out of bloom. At the end of the tangled lane, glimpsed beneath lowering branches, hangs a shadow, a broad sagging porch and slatted window shutters. Roy flanks the vision now and looks Nathan in the eye. "This is what I wanted to show you. I never brought anybody here before." "This is a plantation house," Burke says. "My dad told me about this place. He saw it one time when he was hunting." Roy chews the end of a broom straw. Randy says, "I didn't know there was ever any plantation out here." "Some of the Kennecotts owned it," Roy says. "Their graves are out yonder in the trees. They cleared out the woods here a way long time ago. They were kin to the people who had the place where our farm is, but that place burned down, and the land got sold. And they all just left this place." Randy is gazing upward at the vague outline of a roof beyond the high treetops. "It never did pass for much, that's what my dad said." The first sight of the ruin, when they pass the oaks that obscure the mansion's breadth, take Nathan aback. He has never seen a house as large as this, and it rivals for bulk the federal courthouse in Gibsonville and the elementary school in Potter's Lake. Wooden columns support wide plank porches that surround both floors of the house. The wood has weathered uniformly gray, windows shuttered or broken, doors mutely closed. Dormer windows peer out from the attic. A tree has fallen across one of the side porches, shards of roof timber littering the overgrown yard beneath. The signs of damage are old. This did not happen last night. They pick a path along the side of the house, beneath the shuttered windows and sagging porches. The stillness of the house lends an eerie sense of waiting to the walk, not as if the house is truly empty, but as if its inhabitants are all hiding or watching. Nathan remembers Roy mentioning a haunted house in the Kennecott woods and realizes, with a sense of wonder, that this must be the place. They cross what had been the front lawn, leading down to a place where the creek widens over smooth rocks. By now the afternoon is waning. "We should spend the night here," Roy says. "In the house?" Randy gazes at the huge bulk, perplexed. "No, we can camp down by the creek." "Good. I know I don't want to sleep in that house." Nathan is also disturbed by the prospect. The tent and open air seem more inviting. "This place is supposed to be haunted," Roy says, sounding wary. "My Uncle Eben says it was in a book about North Carolina ghosts. There was a picture of this house. The last full-blood Kennecott who lived here got killed by one of his slaves, and they cut his head off. So he still walks around the place at night looking for his head." "You're full of shit," Randy says. They look around at the somber setting. They stand in the remains of the front yard now, thick with poplars and privet. They are facing the house, within the broad curve of the carriageway, behind wildly overgrown hedges that border the approach to the main doors. The facade of the house has graceful lines, and there is something hospitable, inviting, about the spacious porches and broad doors, even given the present state of decay. It seems less like a mansion than some pleasant farmhouse that grew larger than expected. If it is haunted, the afternoon sun reveals nothing of its ghosts. But even so, the boys accept the facts as Roy presents them, that he has an Uncle Eben who once saw a picture of this house, that a headless ghost is said to roam the grounds in a story famous enough to have been published in a book. They will sleep tonight in sight of a haunted place. Burke gazes at the house with an expression of serenity, a peaceful emptiness. They set up camp within sight of the main doors, near the creek, and sunset strikes a kind of bronze glow from the decay, as if the grass were burning. Amid the late afternoon changes of light and shadow, they set up tents. Roy finds rocks for the fire circle. Nathan heads off to gather wood and Randy follows. The two work quietly in the diminishing light, mindful of their noise, as if they are in church or in the library at school. Because of Randy's size, he has a hard time with the wood, the sticks and branches digging into the softness of his belly. He works without complaint, sweating as if it is summer, humming softly, "Just as I am without one plea." Nathan finds himself humming too. The soft sound connects the two boys. Randy's air of gentleness makes Nathan feel welcome in his presence, though they hardly speak. They return to the campsite with armloads of kindling and branches, the driest wood they can find. Burke splits the wood with a short axe, and the late sun falls over him from the west, flashes of warmth along his shoulders and back. He stacks the split wood, and Randy helps, till soon they have plenty for the night's fire. Most of it is dry enough to burn, Burke says, and wipes the sweat from his forehead. He winks at Nathan over Roy's head. They eat supper early, with the sun setting at their backs. After cleanup, deep into dusk, they go exploring in the grounds behind the big house. In the overgrown yard, beyond what was once a kitchen garden, they find a stone barn, doors hanging off the hinges, flaked with what remains of a deep blue paint. Inside the shell of the house, grass has overtaken the dirt floor, and the lofts have collapsed along the walls. Bats and swallows live in the rafters, darting in and out of a gaping hole in the roof. Behind the barn is a dairy, and another long, low building near the wreck of a paddock fence. They recognize this as a stable by the layout of horse stalls and the remains of a wagon wheel, spokes rotted inside the iron rim. Nathan finds a bit of leather harness in the grass near one of the stalls, the soft leather coming to pieces in his hand. Beyond the stable, down a just discernible path, stands a row of shacks. Most are still intact, though the roofs have collapsed away, but one or two have collapsed to heaps of gray clapboard. Eerie, the street of some deserted town. Roy says these were the slave houses, a notion that sobers Nathan. Out past the shacks lie the once cleared fields of the farm, long since overgrown. One day, even the house, even the stone barn, will be reclaimed by the forest. Amber light floods the grounds almost horizontal, like a tide. Among the long shadows of trees and the burning of color against sun-bleached wooden walls they wander. The silence of the place draws them close together, and by sunset they are walking almost shoulder to shoulder in the purpled light. They halt at the edge of a grove of cedars, outside of a low iron fence that bounds a patch of high grass. My Uncle Eben said this is where they buried the slaves, right here. They buried the family somewhere else. Nathan finds the gate and steps through it. The grass is waist high, and he picks his way forward carefully. He is well within the fence before he realizes he has come exploring alone. The others are gaping at him from the last of twilight. He stands in the murk under the trees. Nathan has spent so much time, lately, among the dead Kennicotts, he feels almost at home here among their chattel. But he finds not even a single gravestone to read. He finds no signs of graves here at all. He stares down at the grass, as if waiting for a hand to reach upward, or for a voice to call out from the ground. He wonders how they marked the graves, if they did. Maybe with wooden crosses, as in Western movies. Maybe the evidence is here, unseen, beneath the grass. He waits. The others are watching, holding their breath. Retreating carefully, he joins them. He is acutely aware of his feet. He has a feeling the graves are crowded together and one must be careful. Though he is aware of no fear, he is relieved when he clears the fence and stands with the others again. They are gaping at him, as if he has done something extraordinary. There's nothing in there. You can't tell where the graves are. They were slaves, Roy says. But there's a fence. Why would they put up a fence if they wouldn't even mark the graves? This is creepy. Randy looks around the dark grove of trees as if waiting for one of the shadows to begin to move. It's getting pretty dark. Birch reaches for his flask again. It is almost too dark to watch him drink. A ghost will haunt you in the daytime just like it will at night, Randy says. That's what my Aunt Ida told me one time. She says it's a superstition that a ghost will only get you at night. A ghost will get you in the daytime just as quick, if it's a real ghost. He pauses. But I still don't want to stand around here. They study their whereabouts carefully for any signs of suspicious movement. But the graves are still, and the air is still, and the leaves on the branches of the trees are still. The evening weighs down on them. They move reverently away, and no one says anything at all until they reach the stone barn. I bet this place is haunted too, Burke says. No one asks why he thinks so. He sips from the narrow bottle again, this time offering to no one. Dusk passes to twilight. The ruin of the farmyard looks different now. Vast as the shadow of a mountain, the mansion exudes an air of vigilance, as if there are eyes at every window, peering through the shutters. To reach their campsite, they will have to dare a walk through inky darkness close to the house, through high grass where they cannot be certain where they are stepping. Amid the wild cries of cicadas, bats, distant owls, they drift forward uncertainly. I wish we had a flashlight, Randy says. I brought one, but I left it in my pack, Roy answers. You guys ain't scared, are you? No, I just wish I could see what I'm stepping on. But a slight tremor in Randy's voice betrays him. They fall silent. The night's harsh chorus rises. Nathan steps toward the shadow. It is safe in the darkness to pause near Roy, to inhale his familiar smells. They are close, for a moment, in the overgrown yard. They are almost touching, and no one can see. Let me know if you get scared, Nathan, Burke's voice is full of scorn. Nathan steps past Roy into the shadow of the big house. He refuses to turn. The others can follow or not. He vanishes into the blackest shadow of his life. The cool darkness lends his motion a feeling of gliding. He is a fish slipping through water. He remains very calm. Soon he can hear the others following, and he smiles to think he has gone first, even ahead of Roy. Breathtaking, to walk so close to the house, to slide through air as if it were water, heading toward vague light that is more and more like mist or cloud, to step past tangled branches, to lift them aside. Who knows how many eyes are there, watching from the black space around him. He listens, and it seems to him the silence of the house engulfs the sound of the others. Now he can only hear the ringing emptiness of the house beside him. The emptiness beckons him, as clearly as if it is calling his name. Again the sensation that the passage of time has been slowed or stopped, that he will never leave this darkness. He is hardly aware of walking anymore. The house breathes beside him. His heart is pounding. When he bursts into the twilight of the yard and can see again, he finds himself surprised, as if he had expected to be blind like that for a much longer time. He is gasping. He has been holding his breath. He moves forward, taking gulps of air. Overhead, stars slash and burn in a fiery sky. Early night. The other boys emerge behind him. They are breathless too, as they rush toward the creek. The bulk of the house waits, silent and cold beneath a crown of stars. The three close on Nathan, and there is something brotherly in their buffets of affection. "That was great," Randy says. "Jesus." "I swear something was touching me," Roy says. "Me too. It was like there was something in the house looking at us. I could feel it." "We should go in there," Burke says. "We should go in the house." Silence. "We should." He sets his jaws and looks at Roy. They cannot meet each other's eyes. Burke is breathing hard. "What's the matter? You think there's a real ghost in there?" "I ain't scared even if there is a ghost," Roy speaks calmly. "How about you?" "I'm not scared. I just don't want to go in there," says Randy. "Chicken shit." "You're damn right I'm chicken shit." But he stares at the house, fascinated. He licks his lip. "You think it'll be all right? You think we can get in?" Burke laughs. He eyes Nathan up and down. "What about you?" Nathan faces the house, tracing its shadow against the sky. "Going inside is fine with me." Roy faces Burke belligerently. "See, asshole? Nobody's scared. The only thing I'm thinking about is we have to be careful. That house is liable to come down around your head if you step in the wrong place. It's dark and we won't be able to see. It's dangerous." "Oh yeah? Well, I say you're scared. That's what it looks like to me." They glare at each other. Roy holds his place, quiet and determined. He is a match for Burke, Nathan thinks. But Burke carries himself more aggressively. His chin juts towards Roy and trembles. His face flushes with emotion. Nathan still faces the house. It's a full moon. If we wait a little bit, there'll be plenty of light. Roy is watching him. Nathan can feel it. But Nathan holds fast to the house, faces that direction, and breathes the scent of late blooming jasmine. Roy studies the sky. He leans close, a warm presence. "You really want to do this?" "That's what he said. I'm asking him." Waiting then. "Why does he get to decide?" But Roy is silent. The moment is rich. Nathan can taste each fluttering Roy's pulse, each rise of scent from his body. "It'd be fun." Roy scratches behind one ear. When he begins to smile, the tension eases. "Well, I know I don't want to go in that front door. We'll never get it open." Burke and Randy laugh. "All right," Burke says. "We won't go in that way." Randy, generously, adds, "You know the house, Roy. How do we get inside?" Secure in his leadership, Roy studies the problem. The rising moon brings soft light to the lawn, illuminating the overgrown azaleas along the sweep of what was once a front yard. Eerie white glaze obscures the windows and washes the facade. There's a door at the side, and there's broken windows, and there's doors at the back, too. Me and Uncle Eben tried a door back there, but we couldn't open it. Did you get in? We could have climbed in a window, but Uncle Eben changed his mind. He probably got scared, too, Randy says. Maybe, but it was a long time ago. I don't remember. They all stare at the house somberly. Burke walks toward it in a few steps. This time he passes the flask to the others, and everyone drinks but Nathan. The moment has come. Roy finds his flashlight. Just in case we need it, he explains. They trot across the yard in the moonlight, Roy leading. They're all following in no order, but Nathan runs close to Roy. Beyond the layers of trees, white as anything, a full moon blazes. The ivory face threatens to make day, even glimpsed in pieces through the branches. Nathan sees a woman in the glittering, the face of a woman staring into a high wind of whiteness, and soon she will be clearing the trees and rising into a sky filled with stars. They travel in the shadow of the house. The size of the place surprises Nathan again as they approach. How could people need so much room? In the darkness, the shuttered windows are like lidded eyes. It is a different feeling to approach with the knowledge that they are going inside. The darkness seems darker. The sense of invisible presence is more acute. They halt a moment at the foot of the stone steps leading to the main porch. Roy checks the windows nearby, slipping fearlessly up the steps and along the porch, sliding his hand along the shutters. Nathan's heart is pounding, but he keeps his eyes on Roy. From shadow to shadow he moves, and the others move parallel to him along the side of the house. He returns further along and whispers, as if they are all concealing themselves from something inside. Everything's nailed shut, like I remembered. They reach the place where the tree has fallen against the house, and once there they climb onto the porch and review the wreckage. Roy clambers over the old tree trunk, peers at the splintered wood of the porch above their heads, the one that circles the second floor of the house. The bulk of the tree rests there. The tree's leaning on the house, Roy whispers. It didn't bust through. The windows? Burke asks. I bet it knocked some loose. Looks like it could have. You want to try up there? Roy considers, his face lost in the shadows of the tree. Not yet. We can come back if we don't find something better. Beyond the tree, they enter a fenced garden that runs the length of the house, adjoining the place where the house swells out and the porches stop. Through the shadows of the trees, they can see the stone barn and some of the outbuildings. The trees thin near that part of the house, and the moonlight falls through in showers of whiteness, clear and clean. The whole farmyard is etched, as if a portrait of itself, a study of wreckage of what was once inhabited. They pick their way through the garden, where the night carries 1,000 smells. Nathan is mindful of snakes underfoot, though not quite sure what to do if he steps on one. Roy keeps them to a path that he seems to know, at the same time scanning the house carefully. We can't get to these windows, they're too high, he says. Too bad, half of them are broke. This is weird, Randy says. Look at this place. What kind of garden was this? You still want to go inside? Oh, yeah. But he studies the shadowy garden nevertheless. Do you? Burke asks Roy. You bet. By now they are crossing the back of the house in full moonlight through waist-high grass. The stark outline of the house leaves Nathan breathless. The upper floor swims out of darkness into stark clarity, so well illuminated he can count the cracks in the outer boards. A porch encircles the kitchen building and then crosses by means of a short gallery to the main house. Roy tests the porch, finds it will hold them. They follow him. Now they are close to the house, sliding along the walls near the shuttered windows. Roy still leads, though now Burke has claimed the place beside him. Randy and Nathan follow. It occurs to Nathan that with the windows shuttered, the fact of moonlight will make no difference inside. The house will be very dark. But he says nothing. They cross the gallery to what must have been a door for kitchen servants. This is the door me and Uncle Heaven tried. Roy's tone is quite soft, though not a whisper. Now it's boarded up. They follow along the porch, their footsteps ringing. They walk more quietly, each without prompting. They find stairs and Roy tests them. One is broken, but the next is sound. They climb to the second-story porch now, and with each step they sink into the quiet shroud of the house. The porch is solid in many places, and they move with confidence. They cross the front of the house again, then along the side gallery, where the windows are also shuttered. At places the porch protests their weight, and they space themselves by the sounding of the floorboards. The floor holds despite its protests. Roy has brought a flashlight, but uses it sparingly. They pause to study the darkness in the direction of their camp. Not even ghost embers of their campfire can be seen. On the other side of the house, where the tree has fallen, they find a window with shutters that have been partially loosened. It takes both Burke and Roy to pry the shutter open. Roy makes the first attempt alone, then Burke tries alone. They are watching each other, each hoping the other will not succeed. Nathan is near enough to admire the moonlight along Roy's straining arms, the snake play of muscles along Burke's back. Their separate efforts fail, and they position themselves to work together. Roy, affecting that he will dirty his t-shirt, takes it off, but instead of looping it through his belt, he hands it to Nathan. Nathan takes his shirt. Roy stretches his shoulders a little. The moment is small, and passes easily beneath the awareness of the others. Burke and Roy pry the shutter free of its remaining nails and swings it slowly on its hinges. The wooden frame is still solid, and the shutter soon lies flat against the house as it used to do. Roy shines the flashlight and carefully brushes away the remains of old glass from the windowsill. His bare back drains a streak of moon down the spine. Burke, near him, drinks from the flask again, offers to Randy, offers to Roy. Roy straightens from the windowsill, takes the bottle, and flashes a warm grin to Nathan. He lifts the bottle. He is beautiful to Nathan. He is clearly aware of the fact. The swallow of liquor becomes a performance. He wipes his mouth and hands the bottle to Burke. Then he leaps through the window. Burke follows him the next moment, with a look of reckless bravery, but he is still only the second one to enter. He has been diminished by Roy. Randy clambers over. Because he is thick-waisted, to get inside takes effort, and he breathes heavily. Then maybe this is as much from fear as from exertion. Nathan slides over the windowsill, careful of the glass. His heart is pounding. They are inside the house. The room they have entered is small and oddly shaped. From inside one can hardly tell the fallen tree is there. The place would be pitch dark except for the flashlight, which Roy washes over the floor. Randy takes a step and the floorboards groan but hold steady. The boys walk carefully. They go through a door and then down a hallway, and suddenly they are steeped in moonlight. They are standing at the top of the gallery overlooking a grand staircase. From a skylight overhead, partially broken, wind rattles through empty panes. Moonlight falls strong from there, and the vaulted space floods with light. The lower floor is dark. Beyond the sound of the wind, is there something else? A thread of music suggests itself to Nathan, who follows the melody in his head, as if someone with a clear voice softly singing in a distant room. He misses the words, but the sound is very pure. Roy keeps the flashlight at his side in spite of the darkness. They pick their way forward carefully. The floor is solid all the way to the top of the stairs, and the stairs seem solid too, but there is a hole in the skylight and a pool of water beneath it. One can see the water from the gallery, a patch of reflection in the deep darkness. The four of them stand at the top of the stairs looking at each other. "We should explore up here first." Randy's tone makes it clear that he is reluctant to descend into that well of darkness. "But after that, we have to go down there." Burke squares his shoulders. The rooms on the second floor are small and plain, like the rooms in any farmhouse Nathan has ever seen. The floors have held up, though the boards sag in a few places and groan in many. The rooms have a desolate feeling, containing little beyond scraps of furniture, the chimney from an old gas lantern, a tin plate with a bit of candle. In one room, beside an unshuttered window, they find a nearly whole chair, casting its long moon shadow across dust and cobwebs. It has a delicate look, like something that might have once faced a woman's vanity table, with slender curved legs and one thin, spidery arm. Beneath the cake of dust that shields the cushion is a dark stain. Roy uses the flashlight here for the first time, and they see the startling pink of the cushion, the patina of dust. The dark stain's resemblance to old blood is unnerving. Even Burke, buffeted by his bravura, seems wary at the sight. "I wonder why they left this," he says. "They took everything else." "That's blood, ain't it?" Randy asks. "Looks like it might be." Roy's answer is bland. "Maybe this is the room where the slave cut the master's head off," Nathan suggests, and they all look at him. "Jesus!" Or maybe not. Nathan looks around. There would be a lot more blood than just this. That is enough for the others. They head out of the room, all but Nathan. He goes on standing there. He finds a place in the wallpaper, another stain like a bloody hand outlined in the pane of moonlight thrown from the window. "There's another stain," he says. Maybe this is the right room, after all. Nor is he teasing them entirely. He is seeing the room a different way. His hands glide along the back of the chair, and when he realizes where he is again, He is counting strands of spiderweb on the fireplace mantel. Then, without another thought, he carries the chair to the fireplace and sets it at an angle to one side. He lifts it by the remaining arm. He studies the chair from behind, as if judging its placement. Then he backs away. They stay perfectly still and take deep breaths. "Why did you do that?" Roy asks. Nathan blinks. The question strikes him as odd. "I think it looks better there." "He's fucking with us." Burke stands with his fists clenched. "I'm not fucking with anybody." Roy laughs, and then Randy follows his lead. His body tense, Burke glares at Nathan. "Let's go." Roy leads them out of the room. The rest of the rooms they visit are bare, and they find no other evidence of occupation, neither ghostly nor otherwise. Except, near the door of one room, Nathan discovers a doll's foot made of thick porcelain and covered with dust. He cleans it, white and pink, on the tail of his shirt. Nathan turns the foot around and around in his hand. Then, without asking anybody, he replaces the porcelain foot in the dust in the same position as before, but clean and shining. They find narrow stairways leading to the attic. These, at the back of the house, open to access, and they find service stairways leading down, also at the back of the house, but the entrances are boarded off beyond a couple of steps. They enter many rooms full of dirt and dust, spiderwebs and leaves, branches and dead birds, bits of broken glass. Nathan still hears the music, the tiny sound like singing at the back of all the other sounds, the creaking floors and the house settling, the wind through broken windows. He can tell the others are listening like he is, and wonders. He is suspicious that they are hearing other songs. Maybe they are even getting the words, too. When they have explored the upper level, they return to the grand central corridor, the skylight and descending stairs. They have turned off the flashlight again and are walking in the ambient light. The moon has risen higher, and the whole space is bathed in milk. Below, they can see the outlines of a large entry hall at the end of a long curved stair. Vague outlines of doorways and rooms beyond are visible, as if they are being invited. They descend without discussion. Randy follows Roy, claiming that place for himself. He knots Roy's t-shirt in his hand, as if for luck or protection. They step carefully down the speaking stairs, where the darkness absorbs them gradually. Soon Nathan can see the outlines of the room, larger than any he has ever entered. Larger even than the sanctuary at church, or the auditorium at school. A layer of dirt and leaves carpets the floor, which slants towards the pool of water. Water drips into the pool from above, a periodic sound that echoes. "That floor is about gone," Roy says. But to the left rises a tall, broad archway, the pale beams of the arch outlined in moonlight. The room beyond is dark, but engulfs sound like a large space. It is the sound of their footfalls, their breathing and coughing that it swallows, along with the dripping water. These sounds multiply as if a voice is coursing through Nathan's head, a tiny singing, sometimes clear and sometimes too soft to distinguish. They walk into the room. Nathan's immediate impression is that he knows the place, even though the shutters are closed, even though the moonlight flickers feebly. The outlines of the room are clear to him. The ceilings are high, a room of generous proportions. 4 windows open on one wall and 3 on another. A fireplace at one end has lost a good deal of tile and brick, bits of which litter the floor beneath, along with animal turds and dry leaves. There are branches, bits of china, fabric of an indeterminate type, piled in one corner. Rags of draperies hang from a window, singed as if burned, but there are no other signs of fire. The remains of wallpaper peel away from the walls, and the wainscoting warps in a place where the window pane is missing. Even the shutters cannot keep out a heavy rain. Some of this he sees in splashes of the flashlight, but the rest is simply there, in what he knows without asking why. Beyond the room is another, not as large, and lined with bookshelves. The shelves are bare save for a city of spiders that is settled on the shelving. Ivy has burst through a window and creeps along the walls. "What's that smell?" Randy asks Roy. "Sulfur." "How do you know?" Burke demands. "I know what sulfur smells like." "The devil is supposed to smell like sulfur," Nathan says. "Oh, that's really funny." Randy sounds more nervous than ever. Scowling, Burke tips his bottle one last time, almost hidden in the darkness, and this time when he finishes, none is left. "Where do we go now?" "Randy, do you have to talk so much?" "I ain't talking to you, I'm talking to Roy. I just want to know." But in some way they all share Burke's feeling, that no one should speak. Light from the broken window where ivy grows laces the floor. The ivy leaves are dark like blood on the walls, a deeper shadow. The boys stand there. The room echoes. They move forward uneasily. Through another archway they step into a room so dark they cannot see the vaguest outline. Either there are no windows or the shutters are airtight. The air is motionless. Roy picks a path carefully and Nathan follows. Burke is behind him, breathing onto the back of his neck. Randy is last and noisiest, breathing heavily. They are all increasingly aware of a want for quiet, as if something in the room or in the rooms beyond is listening. A prickle up Nathan's spine. The distant singing has ceased. It is hard to say which is more complete, the silence or the darkness. They remain motionless somewhere in space, in a room no contour of which is visible. "Why don't you use the flashlight?" Randy asks. "Because I don't want to," Roy whispers. "Keep quiet." Somewhere in the heart of the house, they are close enough to one another that they share warmth and the feeling of safety in numbers. The intuition that someone is listening becomes palpable, and Nathan finally senses a direction, a particular place in the darkness. Nathan touches Roy's arm and points. They can barely see each other, but Roy reads the touch as a message, and they head where Nathan points. They sense the approach of the wall, and then, arms out, Roy touches the jamb of a wide doorway. Nathan can feel the door frame, the space beyond, as black as the one they are leaving. Randy lets out a deep breath, as good as a plea for the flashlight, but he dares not ask. The sound of their breathing fills the room, and Nathan wonders whether the sound of other breath might underlie their own. Someone could be standing in the center of that spacious darkness, someone attentive and silent like them, listening. Roy edges forward. The others follow. The air is stale. Burke follows close behind Nathan. His body radiates heat. Roy freezes. There is a figure ahead. They can see the outline of a shadow, a broad-shouldered man standing perfectly still. Nathan cannot determine whether or not he has his head. The figure is visible even in the darkness of the room, and they are very close to it. Then it slowly raises its arms. Someone grips Nathan's shoulder, hard. Roy presses back against Nathan, raising the flashlight. The figure turns and flees. A silent, gliding motion carries it toward further darkness. The boys remain where they are, hardly breathing. "Shit!" Randy whispers. The single word echoes. They hold their breath. They stand perfectly still, listening. "Did you see that?" Roy asks Nathan. Nathan whispers, "Yes." Since no one can see him, nod his head. "What was it?" "I don't know. That thing didn't make any noise when it moved." Randy says. "Shut up," Burke says. "Fuck I will, it's still out there." "Shut up." Roy switches on the flashlight without warning. Splashing the yellowish circle methodically, he reveals they are in a large room with the windows boarded from the inside. The room is as tall as 2 floors of the house, and the beams of the ceiling cast looping shadows. Leaves and dirt litter the floor. Bare of furnishings, pitch dark, the room shrinks the flashlight beam. Nothing else. No figure of a man. Nothing. At last Roy finds the door again and trains the flashlight on it. Once they reach it, he cleans cobwebs from the frame with a stick. Spiders are moving along the strands of web. Roy turns off the flashlight, and they wait for a moment while their eyes adjust to the dark. Again, the sense of someone listening is immediate. Nathan can almost find direction in the darkness, the place where the shadowed figure has returned out there in the black expanse they have crossed. He searches, but his eyes are still learning to read shadow. He sees nothing in the murk. "He's there." Nathan's voice hardly carries it all. "Where? Do you see him?" Roy searches the darkness too. No, he sees only shadow within shadow, but the one who is listening is there, as if he knows who they are, as if he has known they were coming, as if he was waiting for a sign. No one moves. The silence has filled everything, every space of them. "Nathan's full of shit," Burke whispers. "There's nothing out there." "Be quiet. I mean it." Shoving Nathan forward a little, into the dark space again. "He's trying to scare us, little son of a bitch. Use the flashlight." "No, we already used it." Roy barely controls anger in his voice. "Give it to me then if you're a coward." Roy and Burke are suddenly squared against each other in the darkness, blowing, and they lock together. They are fighting over the flashlight quicker than they could have chosen. It is as if the moment has been waiting for them to find it. They strain back and forth, shoving each other in concentrated silence, convulsive, sudden motions, testing each other's strength. Burke strains to take the flashlight, but Roy fiercely grips it. They are grunting, swearing, but the sounds are plush and quiet. Then suddenly a resounding thump from the darkness beyond, followed by the sound of footsteps running toward them. A thrill races up Nathan's spine. Burke tears the flashlight free of Roy's hand. Randy makes a noise and runs, and Burke releases Roy and runs. They are all running into the darkness. Nathan is hardly aware that Roy has taken his arm, that Roy is guiding him. They pass through a doorway, then down a passageway, through which moonlight falls in slatted patterns onto dusty floorboards. They are alone now, Roy and he. They have lost the others. Roy stops and pulls Nathan to a halt as well. Breathless, they face each other. He can make out Roy's grin in the shadow that is his face. Roy is listening. For a moment they hear distant voices, maybe Burke and Randy. Afterward, silence falls again. "That sure scared the shit out of me," Roy whispers, panting. "Did you really see something?" Nathan shrugs. Roy rests a hand on Nathan's shoulder, laughing quietly. He is still listening, too. "My uncle told me he saw a ghost in here one time. The one in the book. I didn't believe him." "You think that's what he saw?" Roy shrugs. "Who knows? But if it's a ghost, I bet it's that old man. If somebody cut my head off, I'd want it back." "I think it's more ghosts than that." "How do you know?" "I don't. But it feels like it. It feels like there's all kinds of ghosts." This makes Roy think again. "Are you trying to scare me now?" "No." Nathan steps away from him. They are in a black room again, and no moonlight seeps through any shuttered windows here. The room feels small. They withdraw from the doorway to a further wall, where they know each other by touch, by voice. "But this place does feel like there's people in it. Don't you think so?" Roy is frowning. "I don't know. Did you ever come to a place and feel like you'd been there before?" The frown deepens. "No." Silence. "Did you? Did you feel like you've been here before?" "Not quite." Whispered so quietly Nathan can hardly hear the words himself. "It's more like I'll never leave." Then a sound, a footfall nearby. Roy, by his stillness, makes clear that he hears too. "What is it?" "I thought I heard somebody." "It's probably the guys." Then comes the sound again. A step, another, another. Too heavy for Randy or Burke. The sound approaches from the corridor beyond. He draws Roy into the deepest part of shadow. The doorway is a lighter outline of gray against the strangling black of the wall. Silence. Nathan holds his breath. A figure in the door. A vaguer shadow. Someone stands there with his legs spread apart. He is sturdy, square-shouldered, like Nathan's dad when he was younger, like Preacher John Roberts, like Roy. He is familiar. He makes no sound. He has another blankness of the house, a ghost who could be anyone, living or dead. The moment broadens in some way and divides. The sensation is explicit. There are two of Nathan, moving in different directions, and time is no longer a line but a knot, a maze, through which he must pick his way. The figure both remains in the doorway and walks away from it, and Nathan follows in each direction. The figure moves away, and Nathan follows into the corridor, up the stairs, through walls, through ceilings and roofs, upward into air, into heaven and night sky. But the figure also remains in the doorway, and in the haze moves vaguely, like something out of a dream, so that it might be Dad taking off his clothes there, or it might be the preacher opening the Bible behind the pulpit on Sunday morning, and Dad's hand on Nathan's thigh. The unsteady voice in Nathan's ear whispering, "Do you remember what we did when you were a little boy?" While overhead the voice of the preacher sails like a wind of itself. "Do you remember what the Lord said unto Abraham? In the voice of an angel the Lord said unto Abraham, Lay not thine hand upon the boy, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God." Then Roy lays his hand on Nathan's shoulder and says, "What do you see? What's wrong?" The shadow lingers in the vague doorway. The divided moment vanishes, converges. "I thought I saw somebody." He can feel Roy searching, can feel his strain. They are fixed together, invisibly linked. Roy's breath repeats itself along Nathan's shoulders and neck. He pulls Nathan to him with sudden fervor, his arms encircling, and there is insistence in his body, taut like a wire, like when he first touched Nathan in the graveyard. For Nathan, the feeling is like a wind scouring, and Nathan finds himself echoing with the gust. Roy jerks him close, almost brutish, and the thing in the doorway watches. And now the thing resembles Dad even more, from when Dad was young and strong, and the feeling is like there is something tearing in Nathan. That Roy can hold him roughly like this, that he can squeeze too tight. The presence of the thing in the doorway robs the moment of any tenderness. Roy turns Nathan around to face him. Nathan's back is to the door, but he can still feel the thing watching. Roy says, "Don't look. I don't know what it is, but don't look out there anymore." The plaintive note to the voice reaches Nathan. They are together in the room. They are standing together, and Roy's hands are insisting. His body is insisting. His mouth crawls along Nathan's face, and Nathan is tempted for the first time to push him away. There are eyes watching from all sides. Roy's heart pounds beneath Nathan's hand. Nathan sighs and yields. The knee leaves Roy's body a little at a time, and it is almost as if Nathan erases the tension with his hands, squeezing it out through Roy's shoulders. They are together. They run together a little, their edges softening and blending. At first, for Nathan, resistance and anger prevent any pleasure. But this is Roy, not Dad. They are here together. They are safe. Then, without a sign, Roy kneels in front of Nathan, and Nathan, dumbstruck, searches for his face in the shadows. Roy unfastens Nathan's pants, lets them down. "What are you doing?" Roy's hands slide along the backs of Nathan's thighs. The touch burns through all Nathan's nerves, as if his body senses a new intent. Roy slides his hands down Nathan's thighs. Undershorts glide down. The shock of contact, Roy's soft mouth. It is as if Nathan's nerves are bursting, a wet heat. He has never felt anything like the touch. Roy's face slides in and out of shadow. Now Nathan has something to think about, other than the fear that someone is there in the darkness, waiting in the doorway in the darkness. Tension drains away. He lets go. When the flashlight finds them, Roy is kneeling in front of Nathan, and Nathan's pants are tangled at his ankles. The flashlight catches Roy's mouth straining over Nathan's heaving abdomen. But at the touch of light, Roy freezes, and Nathan opens his eyes. "So," the voice of Burke's deep and full of bitterness, "this is what you guys do." Silence. "See it, Randy?" "Yeah." Disgust. "Looks like Roy sucks dick pretty good," Burke says. Roy shoves Nathan away. "Get the fuck out of here," Roy says to the beam of light. Nathan freezes. He is fumbling with his own clothes. He can still see Roy's face, full of horror. "Don't stop now. Turn off that goddamn thing." Roy stands. His voice is trembling with rage. Randy says, "Jesus, Roy, you do that to him?" Roy makes a whimpering sound. He steps over Nathan toward the door. "Get away!" His voice strangled. The flashlight suddenly vanishes. Footsteps retreat. Numb. When Nathan turns, Roy's outline hovers in the doorway. It is Roy. The figure is his, was his. Hesitant, one arm on the door jamb, Roy searches down the hall in the darkness. For a moment, there is a fluctuation that Nathan can feel, the possibility of another division of time, so that Roy could both stay and escape. But the moment remains rigorous. Roy vanishes.